Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corn Productions here to talk about the X-Files, Season 1, Episode 15, titled Lazarus. The episode's description reads as follows. The consciousness of a dangerous criminal possesses an FBI agent who is also Scully's ex-boyfriend. The episode was written by Alex Ganza and Howard Gordon, and the episode was directed by David Nutter. This is his third stint on the series. He was last responsible for Beyond the Sea. The episode originally aired on February 4th, 1994. Before we go any further, I'll tell you a couple things. One, this is not a spoiler-free podcast, so you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go check it out and then come back and give me a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on one of the platforms this podcast is now available on, please follow and feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Corn Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, as well as subscribing to my channel. Okay, so once again, we have another mediocre episode. Lazarus has some good ideas in it, a decent concept for an X-Files, but the execution doesn't quite land. It's very lackluster in its execution. This is another episode that has Ganza's name attached to it. For whatever reason, the efforts by the duo of Howard Gordon and Ganza have not landed for me in this first season. Gordon does go on to do good work in the series. Ganza only really gets another couple of episodes, the last being .com in Season 2. Maybe this partnership doesn't quite work, I don't know, but in Season 1, I was not a fan of most of their episodes, with an exception here and there. Maybe this is just the first season growing pains, and Ganza just simply didn't get an opportunity to stick around long enough to figure it all out, or perhaps he's a writer whose work just does not quite land with me. The episode begins with Scully at a bank with a partner who is not Mulder. I guess she's moonlighting from the X-Files here today. It's hinted that there's some history here. The agent in question is Jack Willis, played by Christopher Alpart. He has 94 credits for him, including 5 episodes of Felicity, an episode of Quantum Leap, which was actually one of my faves that I covered on this channel with my partner Stacy, Last Dance Before an Execution, and the movie Jack Frost. He died on January 25th, 2008. They are waiting for a robbery to occur that they have been tipped off to. In the car, we see Dupree and his girlfriend just before he goes in. He gives her a passionate kiss and then puts a skull mask on. And we see his tattoo, and there's this really creepy music that plays over it for some reason. And this will reoccur throughout the episode. I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to imply with this tattoo. Maybe, does it have something to do with what happens in this episode? I'm not really clear on that at all. The girlfriend, Louise, is played by Sek Beryl, 36 credits for her. She also appeared in Mantis, Knight Rider, and an episode of Wings. Dupree is played by Jason Schambing. He's got 115 credits for him, including Time Cop, Watchmen, and an episode of Arrow. He goes into the bank. Scully barely relaxes as she goes to the floor, and soon Scully and Willis spring their trap. Unfortunately, it doesn't go well for either of the two men, as Willis is shot, and then Scully shoots Dupree. Dupree, as we cut to a hospital room, is already dead. Willis is about to be pronounced, but Scully overrides them and makes them continue to try. As they are zapping, we see Dupree in the background reacting, his body jolts, and much to their surprise, they get a rhythm with Willis. We pan over to Dupree and emphasize his Luis tattoo with the freaky X-Files music, and once again, I am not sure what they are even trying to imply here with that tattoo. But we go to our credits. After the credits, we see Willis wake up, and he walks around wearing the hospital gown, sneaking around. He gets dressed and seems ready to kill the nurse. But then he has some flashes to what happened back at the bank, and he sees a mirror image that is not his own. Willis goes to the morgue to look at the dead body of Dupree and takes the ring off of his hand by cutting off the finger, or so it is implied. We cut to Mulder as he joins Scully. Willis is still missing. Dupree is missing 3 fingers, with Willis's prints on them. Scully thinks it's some kind of psychosis brought on by stress of the case that he's been chasing for a while now. And we hear some history that Dupree was a prison guard who had an affair with Louise until, of course, the warden found out he was fired. And then they went on a crime spree. And a killing spree, as it turns out. Mulder correctly guesses that Willis was after the wedding ring. Meanwhile, Willis is breaking into Dupree's house looking for his wife, but he finds nothing. On his arm, we start to see part of a tattoo appearing. Okay, Alright, so are you saying that if you were to switch bodies with somebody coming back from the dead, that you would manifest tattoos that you previously had as well. I'm not really sure what they're doing here. I don't know. I don't understand. Meanwhile, Mulder is already guessing that Willis has been replaced by Dupree, and that's quite a leap. I mean, of course he's right, but once again, that is quite a leap. And that's my biggest problem with this episode, just how quickly Mulder is to go straight to this theory that Dupree has somehow inhabited the body of Willis. I mean, sure, Mulder has taken plenty of leaps in the past and been right, but this just seems... it doesn't work for me here. I think it would have been better if he had gradually come to that conclusion rather than doing it straight off, and of course being right. They go and see Dr. Barnes, who says a lot of things. One line sticks out because it's meaningful to the conclusion. When people die, their watches stop, and he seems to support Mulder's theory. Barnes is played by Jay Brazeau. He was, of course, in Insomnia, a Christopher Nolan movie, Horns, and an episode of The West Wing. Scully, of course, doesn't believe this theory. She thinks the stress of the case and the trauma of being shot are the reason for his current behavior. She reveals that they dated back in the day, and he was her instructor at the academy. That's morally dubious. Meanwhile, they also happen to share the same birthday. Dupree goes and sees Luis's brother, Tommy, who of course doesn't know who he is. Dupree thinks that he is the one that sold them out, and Tommy doesn't catch on who he actually is until just the moment before Dupree shoots him in the face. By the way, Tommy is played by Callum Keith Rennie. He most recently turned up as a refreshing character in the final season of Star Trek Discovery. He was in 14 episodes of Californication with David Duchovny. The actors do not get scenes together within this episode. Rennie also appeared in the second X-Files movie, I Want to Believe, as the second kidnapper, and he was most famous for appearing on Battlestar Galactica. That would be the recent one, not the original. Scully and Mulder investigate the crime scene, and Jack ends up showing up to the crime scene as well, which surprises Scully, because, of course, at this point, he's been missing for a while. She has to vouch for him with some officers that are at the crime scene. Jack says he doesn't know where he's been, and is arguing that he needs to be on the case, while Scully is arguing that he needs to stay away because he needs to recover, but he's the one that ends up winning out. And he ends up suggesting this theory that Luis was the killer. Alright, so at this point, I'm a little confused. Is this Dupree screwing around? And this is his means of trying to find Luis? Or is this part of Willis's personality temporarily back? Mulder finds a print on the TV, and of course is congratulated for his good work. Willis, meanwhile, is a good shot. Or maybe it's Dupree. Not really sure. They're at some kind of target range. Willis is trying to get reinstated to the FBI, and he can't do that without being recertified. Mulder tests Willis by having him sign a birthday card for Scully. He does so despite it not being her birthday at all, something that Willis would know because, as we had mentioned, they share the same birthday. This is 2 months early for the both of them. Oh yes, and the print Mulder found went missing, and he suspects Willis of doing that. Scully isn't buying it, because of course she's not. Oh, and Jack before the shooting and Jack now signs his name differently, which is more evidence for Mulder, but again, something that Scully discounts. Scully ends up asking Jack about the fingerprint, but he denies it, and he seems rather annoyed by the whole thing. And Jack has a lead on where Luis is, and goes to an apartment to talk to the landlord. They turn around the corner, when they seemingly spot her. She goes on the run, Scully catches her, and Willis catches up to them, and takes out some handcuffs. Only they aren't for Luis, who is already handcuffed by Scully. They are in fact for Scully. Dun dun dun. Luis hasn't quite caught on to the fact that Willis is either Dupree, or at the very least, someone who thinks he's Dupree. He spends the next scene trying to convince her that he is in fact Dupree. While quizzing him, she takes off her shirt down to her bra, which I'm only mentioning, not because I'm a perv, though maybe I am one a little bit, but because it's kind of an odd thing to do in front of a man you don't know who's trying to convince you that he does. Not that I minded this at all, but it seemed a tad gratuitous. Willis calls Mulder to let him know that he's kidnapped Scully. Scully tries to tell Willis who he is, but it's not working. He is not being convinced by Scully trying to get him to remember things. Scully realizes he's been drinking a lot of soda, and well, Willis isn't a diabetic, and now he needs insulin. Meanwhile, Mulder is now hanging with Agent Bruskin, played by Jackson Davies. 53 credits for him, including I Still Dream of Jeannie, which came out in 1991 and had Barbara Eden in it as Jeannie. He was also in Diagnosis Murder and Bird on a Wire with Mel Gibson. Bruskin is kind of a refreshing character in that he's skeptical of Mulder's theories, but he has a lot of respect for the man. Willis got insulin somehow. They went out and got it from somewhere, but Louise won't let him have it. She was the one who set up Dupree, not her brother. She would have had the money and been free of him at the same time if this whole thing had worked. And it did, except for the fact that she didn't count on Dupree coming back in someone else's body. Louise calls Mulder and wants a ransom of $1 million. And they were running a trace, but since it was Scully's phone that they were calling from, the trace is in fact useless. Mulder consults a sound expert and gets an idea of where they might be, because they pick up the fact that they are near an airport. Mulder uses this info to set up a manhunt in a more localized area. An agent makes some alien jokes, but Bruskin, with humor, defends Mulder. Meanwhile, Willis is deteriorating, but is starting to have some memories of Willis's. A guy pretending to be a Jehovah's Witness, or at least acting like one, knocks on the door. But, as it turns out, he is in fact just canvassing the house. And now they know where Louise and Scully is. Jack plays dead just long enough to distract Louise and to get the gun from her. Outside, Mulder and co. prepare to storm the house. Louise tries to convince Jack to not shoot her, but he thinks that this way they can be together. So he does end up shooting her, just as the other agents storm the house, and he seemingly dies, probably as a result of not having enough insulin. The tattoo that had appeared on his arm disappears. Yeah, I still don't get what they were trying to do here, or at the very least, I don't agree with it. In a later scene, Mulder gives Scully Jack's personal effects. Jack was a big brother, as it turns out, and Scully wonders what to tell the boy. Mulder says to tell him the official story, and the official story was that Jack and Louise died in the shooting at the bank. Jack in the line of duty, and Louise during the attempt to rob the bank. And Scully asks, what is she supposed to tell herself? And Mulder is rather curt here. He just says goodnight. Like, you're not going to help your partner through this? Like, I don't know. This would be a perfect time to, console her. I mean, compare this scene to, what happened in Beyond the Sea, and then and watch this scene, and tell me that Mulder is not being exceptionally cold here. Scully notes that Willis's watch isn't working. It stopped at the time that Willis went into cardiac arrest. Scully asks, what does that mean? And Mulder says, it means whatever she wants it to mean. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where the episode ends. Yeah, like I said, there's some good ideas here, and there's a few moments that are, good, but all in all, the execution was extremely lackluster. I don't think they did a good job with this concept. I think they should have had Mulder gradually come to this realization, rather than just basically from frame one being like, yep, he's being inhabited by Dupree. I think that was just too big of a leap for Mulder to take way too early. And in this particular case, despite the fact that he makes leaps all the time, I just did not buy it here. Next time, we got Young at Heart, which I think might be another mediocre episode. I think I have some fond memories of it, but I don't think the fandom is particularly a huge fan of this episode. At the very least, Deep Throat is in it, and so is Cancer Man, though he doesn't get any lines. He's just kind of there. And it's going to be more people from Mulder and Scully's past showing up, which, they're doing that a lot this season, and I think they should really have toned that down. They shouldn't have so many people from the past showing up in this one season. They don't do that very much as the series progresses, though occasionally they do. Anyway, that's all I got for you for this video. If you like this video and want to support the channel, there's a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join my Core Productions Facebook page. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a copy. You can join the Core Productions membership for 99 cents a month. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to my channel. This is Dave from Core Productions, signing off.